World War II was a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945, involving the majority of the world's nations. It is considered one of the deadliest conflicts in human history, with an estimated 50 million to 85 million fatalities. The war involved two major military alliances, the Allies and the Axis. Causes of World War II. The origins of World War II can be traced back to the Treaty of Versailles, which was signed at the end of World War I in 1919. The treaty imposed heavy reparations and restrictions on Germany, which led to widespread resentment and economic hardship in the country. The rise of the Nazi Party in Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, exploited this resentment and capitalized on popular anger to gain power. Hitler came to power in Germany in 1933 and immediately began to rearm and expand the German military. He also pursued a policy of territorial expansion, annexing Austria in 1938 and Czechoslovakia in 1939. These actions drew the ire of the international community, but no country was willing to go to war over them. The outbreak of World War II can be traced back to Hitler's invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. Britain and France, who had granted Poland's independence, declared war on Germany 2 days later. The initial phase of the war saw rapid German advances as they quickly conquered Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. Axis power. The Axis powers were the countries that fought against the Allies during World War II. They were led by Germany, Italy, and Japan. The three countries formed a tripartite pact in September 1940, agreeing to come to each other's aid in the event of an attack by a country not already at war with them. Germany. Germany was led by Adolf Hitler, who came to power in 1933. Hitler's rise to power was fueled by a combination of factors including widespread resentment over the Treaty of Versailles, economic hardship, and anti-Semitism. Hitler quickly began to rearm and expand the German military, violating the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler pursued a policy of territorial expansion, annexing Austria in 1938 and Czechoslovakia in 1939. He also signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union in August 1939, allowing him to invade Poland without fear of Soviet intervention. Germany's early victories in World War II, including the conquest of Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France, were largely due to Hitler's military strategy and the superiority of the German army. However, the tide of the war began to turn in 1941 as the United States entered the conflict following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Italy was led by Benito Mussolini, who came to power in 1922. Mussolini was an early supporter of Hitler and the Nazi Party, and in 1939, Italy joined the Axis powers. Italy's role in the war was largely defined by its attempts to expand its territory in Africa and the Mediterranean. Italy invaded Ethiopia in 1935 and annexed Albania in 1939. In 1940, Italy invaded Greece, but the campaign was a failure and Italy suffered significant losses. Mussolini also sent troops to fight alongside the Germans on the Eastern Front, but the Italian army was ill-equipped and poorly trained and suffered heavy casualties. Japan was led by Emperor Hirohito and Prime Minister Hideki Tojo. Japan's expansionist policies were fueled by a desire to secure access to raw materials and markets in Asia. Japan had already invaded Manchuria in 1931 and China in 1937. In 1940, Japan signed the Tripartite. However, the tide of the war began to turn in 1941 as the United States entered the conflict following the Japanese attack on the Pearl Harbor. The entry of the United States brought significant resources and manpower to the Allied causes, and put enormous pressure on the Axis powers. The war in Europe reached a turning point in 1943 with the Allied victory at the Battle of Stalingrad. The Soviet Union had borne the brunt of the fighting against the German army on the Eastern Front, and the victory at Stalingrad marked the beginning of a long, slow retreat for the Germans. In 1944, the Allies launched the longest amphibious invasion in history, landing on the beaches of Normandy in France. The D-Day landings marked a significant turning point in the war, as the Allies were able to establish a foothold in Europe and began pushing the Germans back. In the Pacific, the Allies fought a grueling campaign against Japan, marked by brutal, island-hopping battles and the use of atomic bomb on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bombings, which killed an estimate 200,000 people, brought about Japan's surrender and marked the end of World War II. The war had far-reaching political and social consequences, with the most significant being the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as global superpowers. The war also brought about significant changes in the political and social structures of many countries, including the rise of communism in China and the beginning of decolonization in Africa and Asia. The aftermath of the war also saw the establishment of international institutions such as the United States and the International Monetary Fund, which were designed to promote peace and stability in the post-war world. However, the war also had significant human costs, with an estimate 50 million to 85 million people losing their lives. The Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were systematically murdered by the Nazis, remains one of the most horrific events in human history. In conclusion, World War II was a global conflict that had far-reaching consequences for the world. It was fought between the Allies and the Axis powers and lasted from 1939 to 1945. The war had significant political, social, and economic consequences and led to the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as global superpowers.